everyone, it's Lil, and this is another episode of Cine Request. This time I took the request from Levi, who is a Twinkle Imagination member, and he asked me to watch Symphogear, an anime he really loves. And well, before I start talking about the actual season, I just want to say that I have already watched Symphogear years and years and years ago, and I rewatched the first season because I basically don't remember anything. You know how my memory goes. Sorry, Levi. And I rewatched the first season to talk about in this video. So if you haven't seen Symphogear and this is something that interests you, this video is going to be full of spoilers. Maybe not specific spoilers, but I'm going to talk about the whole season. And before I start talking about the actual season, Symphogear is a very famous magical girl franchise. It has already 5 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. And just recently, it was announced that it's going to have a collaboration with Saint Seiya. There were images of Hibiki, the main character, with a Saint Seiya-like costume. It looked really nice. And I think it's for a game. I'm not really sure. But I found that on social media and I found that pretty interesting. So let's start. As I said, I've already watched Symphogear seasons 1, 2, and half of season 3. Even before season 4 came out, so it's been a long time. So I revisited by Levi's request. So the first thing I can say is that Symphogear is a nice magical girl show with pretty intense battles. If you like intense battles and like over-the-top battles, this might be the thing for you. So let's talk about the first season of Symphogear. This is one thing that really stayed with me since the first time I watched Symphogear. Right at the start of the season, we see a magical girl duo singing, and they're like super shiny on stage, and then they transform and they start fighting. And Hibiki, the main character, is there watching the show, and then the show is attacked and we see a big event of those two girls turning into magical girls and fighting and singing. Amazing. But then, right at that first episode, one of them dies and she ends up sacrificing herself to save Hibiki. That's when basically the journey of Symphogear starts. So I think that the first thing that really talked to me when watching it is Symphogear is a serious series. Oh my god, tongue twist. It's serious and it high stakes. You're in the battle, high stakes. So there is this duo, Zweiling, from Tsubasa and Kanade. Tsubasa is played by Nana Mizuki, a legend in voice acting and a legend in the magical girl world too. And so watching that, for me, it stays with me. But then after that, you learn it's not really like that. There aren't really big stakes in Symphogear. So we follow Hibiki's story towards her becoming a magical girl and using her powers. And one very interesting aspect of Symphogear is the song. They sing a lot. And they have to sing to transform. They have to sing to resonate with what they have so that they can have their transformations. It has a name. It has all the specifics. It's not something that really interests me that much, so I don't really know those specifics, especially because those feel like relics, but they're also very technological. And I talked about this in my Nonoha video, which is I don't really like technological designs, like high-tech designs. They don't look nice to me, and that's why I probably don't like the Symphogear designs that much. Even though I think that Symphogear kind of does a good job in it. Like, it's not ugly. It's just not from a personal taste. But one thing I like is the colorization of the characters. Like, each of the characters, they have one color, and this color is permanent in their attacks and in their costumes. It's very nice. And so the song aspect is probably the most interesting thing about Symphogear. I really like music, so watching a show about that is very nice. It sometimes feels a little minor, like they're fighting and they're singing at the same time. The song itself kind of feels minor, but if you pay attention to the lyrics of the song, you are gonna find similarities to who the girls are, their personalities, what they're going through, how they fight, and things like that. So we have Hibiki as the main character, and I'm gonna have to be very honest here and say I don't really like Hibiki. I think that I mean, she is the simple magical girl. You know, she is your usual energetic, bold, and she tries very hard to be the best and protect everyone magical girl. She is that specific type of magical girl. She has some drama in the season with her best friend Miku. Their relationship is, I don't know if I can call it queerbait because I don't know enough about their relationship, but it doesn't feel like only a friendship. You know, you watch them and you see how Miku feels about her and how Miku, like, she really gives a lot of importance to the things that Hibiki says and to the things that Hibiki embraces. You know, like, it does really feel like something else to me, but it's a very interesting relationship and it creates some dynamics inside the plot of the show. I'm gonna have to say that this dynamic sometimes really bothered me because they were kind of annoying. Like, don't you have the ability to talk and discuss things? Like, the dialogues between them were so bad. Sometimes you just wanted to get Miku and say, look girl, pay attention to what Hibiki is doing. She has her reasons. And Miku not understanding that for a teenager is understandable. But it felt very annoying to watch. But I don't think that Hibiki is an interesting character at all. Because we have other two main characters in this show and they are super interesting. That's why I want to talk more about them. Let's start with Tsubasa, the blue one, Nana Mizuki. I love this character. She's probably my favorite and I really liked her. You know, she suffered a lot because she lost her friend, her best friend, and the person who fought with her. So she basically became a soulless word with no emotions. She just fights to protect people and that's basically her role in the season. She was full of emotions. By trying to hide her emotions, she was pretty emotional all the time, especially when she was around Hibiki. And I really liked the way they handled her character. And the way that she was fighting was a road to death. Maybe I like to call it that. I even wrote it on my notes, road to death, because she was not really caring about herself. Since she lost her friend, it felt like she lost everything to her. So she was just fighting to protect people, but she wasn't really paying attention to her own body and her own protection. The show does a very good job in portraying her road to life and how she has to accept that she's alive instead of her friend, and how she is able to turn that into something good for her, because that was a source of pain. Her being alive was a source of pain for her. Now she has to turn that into something good, and I really liked the way the show handled all this. And there is one thing about Symphogear as a whole, which is the dialogues in Symphogear are cringy and pretty bad overall, but the monologues are very good. And we see a lot of monologues from Tsubasa. I think that there is this big difference between both of them. The dialogues are, who writes them? And the monologues are really nice, like very nice. And we see a lot of monologues or inner thoughts from Tsubasa. And that's a good thing, very good thing. So I really liked her. And there's also Chris, who is another main character. And I really like Chris. Chris is probably the most well-crafted character, I think. Even more than Tsubasa. I like Tsubasa more than Chris, but I think Chris is handled even better than Tsubasa. Chris is another character that is suffering a lot and she's going through a lot of pain. And she starts off as a villain and then we learned that she was basically doing it because she wanted something for her. She wanted an attachment, she wanted something. She was working for the actual villain of the season, which was a plot twist, not really supposed to be a plot twist, I think, because it's very obvious. And I really like Chris's characterization because she is someone who is very hurt. And so for her not to be hurt anymore, she starts hurting other people. It's like, hurt other people so that they won't hurt you back. And be strong enough so you're able to hurt other people so that you're not hurt. And that is shown in basically every instance of her personality, but also in her as a magical girl. When she transforms, she hurts everything. She attacks everything, you know, like she cannot focus on one attack, on one specific target. She attacks everything with her missiles and everything. That's very nice. Still about the plot, we have the villain of the season who is Fine, and we learned that she's actually Ryoko, who's one of the people who were working in the Symphogear thing. And I don't know if they were supposed to be like a surprise. That was supposed to be a surprise because the flags were all there and they were very in your face. So I don't think it was supposed to be like a turning point, a plot twist. I don't think it was supposed to be that. But the Fine story was still very interesting. It was like based on the Babylon myth of the Bible and people not being able to communicate after trying to reach God. And so like it was interesting. But look, story in Symphogear is just a background. It's a background for us to watch great battles. The idea of Fine is very interesting, but they don't really get very deep into that story. They explain it in a very simple way, and that's it. That is just for a story to exist, because what really matters is the battles. I feel like everything in Symphogear, except the character-driven plots, which are more interesting, like the Tsubasa one, the Chris one, are just for us to watch great battles. And the last battle of the show was very good, but everything that led up to it was also nice. We had some instances in which the girls had to discover and rediscover ways of using their powers. We see Hibiki almost going berserk lots of times while trying to use her powers. We see Chris getting into terms into the bad things she did and trying to redeem herself as fighting against Fine. And we see Tsubasa coming to terms in her own feelings, which was also great. And the last battle was probably the best battle of this first season. It was really, really good. We see, before the actual battle started, we see there is a specific song. I don't know how it's called. The swan song, the last song, I don't remember. So the girls sang, they used basically all their life power to sing that song, which is the strongest song ever. And that is the song that Kanade sang in the first episode and she died. But then we see this song being sung by the girls in the season, actually, and nothing happens, basically, to them. Like, it was supposed to happen, but then the show makes it very clear that it didn't happen because people were rooting for them. Very cheesy, very magical. Very, very cheesy to me. And, it looks like sometimes Symphogear mimics the children magical girl shows, but it's not a children magical girl show. It's more geared towards like maybe teenagers or like young adults. I don't know the specific demographic of it, but it's very clear it's not for kids. There is this last battle, and this last battle is supposed to be very epic because there are lots of sacrifices. Chris sacrifices herself in her swan song. Nothing happens to her. Tsubasa does the same, and in Tsubasa's case it was even more interesting because she did it to save Hibiki. It was a very beautiful scene. I'm not gonna lie, I really liked it. And then the girls were fighting Fine, and then like Fine creates like a horde of noise, and then the girls have to fight against them. They get together to fight. They get like powered up costumes in a white-ish power up, and then they start fighting it. That fight was awesome, and then they get to fight the final form of Fine. Also great. Look, that fight was everything. So the three of them fighting together and singing together was super cool. There was one thing in that last fight that really kept me like, oh my god, why is this girl there? There is a girl in the show. She makes lots of jokes, recurring jokes along the first season, and she always comments saying like, this is not an anime, and she says this a lot of times, and then she kept on saying this in the last battle so many times, and it was so distracting. I understand that it was supposed to be a joke, it was supposed to be like a moment for us to disconnect of the drama in the battle, maybe, I don't know, but it was so distracting. Like, they overdid the joke, but then at the end they win, everything is great, obviously, and there is one last dialogue with the villain, which felt super annoying by Hibiki. Hibiki, please stop. Like, this thing about being friends with everybody. Okay, girl. Next. And obviously she ended up having like one last attack, one last moment of glory, and the girls had to sacrifice themselves. Look, that last scene with them flying to the moon, because there was a big part of the moon that was gonna hit the earth, them singing their songs, and oh my god, it felt super dramatic. I didn't care at all that Piece of the Moon was coming, but I did care about the characters, so that was nice, and it was nice seeing them sing. But then at the end, they are alive, everything is fine. So, this last song, this one song they sing, is nice as a concept, and it starts very nice with Kanade. It starts very nice with Kanade. And it's like a very good starting point for the season. But when the season starts to happen and you start watching those characters sing those songs with no consequence at all, or sometimes there is consequence, like there is a Tsubasa part that there is a little consequence, but not even close to what happened to Kanade. It just feels like the first death, the death in the first episode feels very pointless. Very pointless, and it's like she could have still been alive. You know, if you were to follow the logic of the rest of the show, she could have been alive still. I don't understand. So now let's talk about other things. First off, the fan service. It's kind of distracting. There's a lot of fan service, especially with Chris, and it bugs me a little bit because there is a certain part of the season that they kind of let you know that she is a sexual assault survivor. So giving her the biggest fan service and the shots and the way the camera works on her, it's kind of annoying. Not kind of, very annoying. The other characters, they kind of suffer from it too, but it's a little less than Chris. And when it comes to the transformations and the effects, I think they didn't age very well. The effects when they're transforming, like the backgrounds, they look like a Windows Media Player background. They look very ugly nowadays. Maybe for the time it was super cool, but for now they don't look nice. But there is one thing that looks very cool and it still looks nice, which is when they use their special attacks. There is like a freezing frame with the attack in an artsy way. It looks super cool and I love it so much. It looks really nice. So I'm gonna keep on watching Symphogear. This was my take on the first season of it. It's a very enjoyable show. There are some points that I don't like, but overall it's a great experience and I really like it. And opening, ending, great songs. Animation, like visually, but the songs are awesome. Now I'm going back to the second season, which I already watched prior to this, but as I said, I forget about everything, so I need to rewatch it, and I'll do it soon. Levy, I hope you enjoyed this, and also, happy birthday! Anyways, guys, I hope you all enjoyed it as well, and I want to take this time to thank the members of the Magical Cinnamon channel. If you are a member, thank you so much for becoming a member and for believing in Magical Cinnamon. If you watch up the channel, thank you so much as well. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye bye!